Oh my god, it's Video Games. We are back again to talk about video games, and well, today here we're doing something pretty different. As you can see, this is a virtual background here. Oh, it's cutting stuff off, but I've got myself a nice new webcam. It looks pretty good. Got myself a new little setup here where I can do other little videos and such like that. So today we're going to do just that, and as you'll see right here, going to be doing a bit of a tier list. Now, throughout the course of video game history, there are definitely a handful of years that people could argue as like the greatest years for video games. While there's certainly a handful that are arguable, it kind of feels like the consensus is that 1998 is one of the all-time best years for video games. So I figured, hey, why not rank some of the games from 1998. Yes, here on this list I have quite a few big releases, some smaller stuff, some other stuff, but I have kind of cherry-picked it here to mostly be stuff I've played, because obviously you don't want to sit here and hear me talk about games I haven't played because I can't really give my analysis and stuff on them. So here's a list of like 30 or some odd games that we're going to go through here. I will admit there's maybe like 4 or 5 on here that I actually have not played, but they were big enough releases that I felt like it would be a bit of a disservice. It would definitely be a disappointment if they were not on the list. So hey, let's just kind of look at what we got here and get right into it. So let's rank the games of 1998. Let's go ahead and start with Bushido Blade 2. I like the Bushido Blade games. They are really, really neat and unique fighting games, one-hit fighters. They kind of play out like realistic fighting games. You can kill somebody in a single slash and it's pretty awesome. The first game, well, I think might have the better mechanics and just slightly better feel. Bushido Blade 2 adds more levels, adds more characters, honestly just kind of makes it a all-around slightly better experience. Bushido Blade 2, I think I'm going to put that in B tier, as it's a really, really awesome game, but I think there's definitely stuff on here that is much better, but who knows, maybe it'll get bumped up. Nothing is quite set in stone here, but Bushido Blade 2, really awesome. Okay, here's a weird one. Castlevania Symphony of the Night for the Saturn. Yes, the Saturn port that is kind of notoriously flawed. It's nowhere near as good as the amazing PlayStation game, as it has slowdown, it has loading, it has a very different map system. The map has to load in this game, which is a real pain in the ass. If you've ever played Symphony of the Night, you know you really want to be able to look at that map like as much as possible and as quickly as possible to kind of find your way around here. However, though, the Saturn version also has like some unique content, as it's I think the only version where you can actually play as Maria and Trevor Belmont in this game. So it has some kind of neat stuff going for it, and it has had a lot of patches over the years to kind of really whip it into shape, and I've played one of those patches and it's still suboptimal. It's not nearly as good as the PlayStation game, and honestly, that PlayStation game, fucking amazing. One of the games I slept on super hard over the years. As a massive Castlevania fan, I could not believe how amazing that game was when I finally got around to playing it 2 or 3 years ago. But as the Saturn version stands, I gotta put that in a C tier. It's still a fantastic game at its core. That core Symphony of the Night experience is still there, and you still get some of that, but it has a lot of issues. So that's gonna keep it from being in B tier. I don't know though. Maybe Bushido Blade 2 does go up, and Castlevania goes up as well. We'll see. We'll kind of get back to that. Alright, Wipeout 64. The F-Zero series is absolutely, speaking of F-Zero, we've got F-Zero X down there as well, but we'll do Wipeout first here. But the F-Zero series has kind of always been my bread and butter when it comes to futuristic racing games. But I can't lie, I have a soft spot for Wipeout as well. I think the series is pretty good, and I think it kind of got better as it went on. And I gotta say, Wipeout 64 is pretty good. The controls are actually really dialed in for this game, because the Wipeout series is definitely kind of known for the real-time physics that's implemented in the turning and the traversal of the game. So it kind of has this kind of strange, weird, esoteric feel to it that you do get used to, and when you get used to it, it's really, really fun. I would say Wipeout 64 really hones that here. It feels really good. It's nice and tight. I'm gonna definitely put that in B tier right there alongside Bushido Blade 2. Very, very good Wipeout game. Maybe not my favorite, but a respectable entry there on the 64. I guess with racing games in mind, let's just jump over to F-Zero X. Now, honestly, as far as the F-Zero games go, the Super Nintendo game has always been my favorite. It's still my favorite to this day, but I've got to say, just kind of recently loading up F-Zero X and GX and a couple of the other Game Boy games in the F-Zero series, I think F-Zero X might be my second favorite in the series. It feels really good to play. The races are really fast. The music is super good. I love the rock renditions of these songs, although again, I still prefer the original Super Nintendo renditions of these songs. But F-Zero X, I'm gonna go ahead and put that in A tier for now. Very great racing game. I think there's just other stuff on here that is possibly better than it. I don't know, maybe it just doesn't sit in X, but maybe it does. Again, some of this stuff might move around as we go. All right, you know what? Here's a game I talked about somewhat recently on the channel here. Ehrgeiz, coming to us from Square, one of these weird Square experiments that kind of came out after Final Fantasy VII made it a big hit and made them a bunch of extra money. Ehrgeiz is a fun arcadey, like 3D fighting game. Not like the greatest one out there. It's pretty basic and should be better. It's not quite a Power Stone. It's not quite up there with the Power Stone level tier amazing fighting game, kind of 3D fighting game. What the fuck am I trying to say? It's not quite up there with the likes of Power Stone is what I'm trying to say. But it is fun, and it does have a bunch of extra modes in there, like a fighting racing mode, which is really strange, and like a full-on dungeon mode, where it's basically got an RPG built into it, which is really ambitious for them. And on that alone, I think I'm gonna put it up here in the B tier with Bushido Blade, which is also another one of those weird Square experiments of the time. You know what? We're gonna talk about some trash. WCW Nitro. Now I've talked about WCW Thunder on the channel before, and Nitro is the prequel to it, and it's the same exact engine. It controls really awful. It's a bad game. It's a bad game. The controls are really bad. It's very stiff. The game plays super quick, like almost feels like it's playing at 2 times speed. It's kind of ridiculous. The controls are almost kind of like those acclaimed WWF games where you're putting in like almost fighting game inputs, almost Mortal Kombat style inputs, which I could see some people enjoying. But as far as other wrestling games go around this time, WCW Nitro is pretty bad. Now, I will admit, I do actually have a lot of nostalgia for this game, as when I got my PlayStation 1 from my neighbor, it was a hand-me-down once he got his PS2. One of the games I inherited was WCW Nitro, and I did end up playing a lot of this game with my friends when we got bored with SmackDown 2, which is the far superior wrestling game on the PlayStation 1 that I had, but I did play a lot of Nitro. I do have a bit of nostalgia for it, but I can't pretend that WCW Nitro is not a D tier game. Yeah, that's down there in the bottom. For as much nostalgia as I have for it, bad fucking game. You know what? While we're talking about wrestling games, and we were talking about the acclaimed ones, I see WWF Warzone down here, equally as bad of a game. And as a matter of fact, I would say it's probably worse. I don't know what it is with those acclaimed games, but I have no nostalgia for them. They just don't click with me. I don't like the way they look, the way they sound, the way they play. I don't know. They're just bad games, and I would rather play Nitro than WWF Warzone. So yeah, Warzone, going right down next to it in the D tier. You know what? Let's just finish off the string of wrestling games I got here. Now, if we're talking about wrestling games that matter in 1998, WCW NWO Revenge is absolutely up there at the top. This is an S tier. Absolute S tier. It's an Aki Engine wrestling game. Some top tier shit right here. I mean, the controls, the customization, the amount of characters, the amount of different arenas and such you have in here is like unbeatable. Come on, these Aki Engine games I remember to this day because of just how fucking great they are. They play great. They're fun to just pick up and play with your friends. I mean, you can't beat it. The presentation, the music in these games, for as dorky as that N64 like sound font is, you know, there's some good stuff in here. The main event theme in this game is legendary shit. Yeah, WCW NWO Revenge is definitely the best WCW game out there. That was commercially and officially released. It's an absolute S tier. Aki Engine wrestling game. You can't go wrong. I would definitely say WWF No Mercy is a better game, but that was a couple years later. That was 2001. So yeah, S tier. First S tier for sure. All right, Half-Life. This is, I mean, come on. This is a huge FPS game for the time. The real first, like, true cinematic FPS game, and it's one I have not really played much of. I've played maybe like 30-40 minutes of Half-Life, so this is one that I can't say a whole lot about, but I can't deny its importance and its influence on the first-person shooter genre. But because I have not played it, I've got to put Mr. Freeman and Company at A tier. Yeah, just because I haven't played a whole lot of it. I respect the hell out of it. I definitely intend to sit down and really play through it. One of these days, I just haven't gotten around to it at this point. But yeah, Half-Life, I respect the hell out of it and everything it did for the genre and what it did for Valve. All right, you know, we talked about a couple racing games earlier. Let's go ahead and get Ridge Racer 4 on the map. Much like Wipeout. I don't even know if I mentioned the soundtrack when I'm talking about Wipeout, but Wipeout, amazing soundtrack, kind of, you know, drum and bass, electronica. You kind of get the same thing with Ridge Racer. I gotta say though, Ridge Racer is a better game than Wipeout for me, and Ridge Racer 4 is my personal favorite of the bunch. I've got to put that up here in the A tier. I love Ridge Racer 4. Like, this is like the definitive Ridge Racer game on the PlayStation. It's one I go back to, I would say once, twice every year. I just sit down and just enjoy it, just bask in it for like a good solid afternoon. I mean, Ridge Racer 4, oh man, fantastic game. Definitely deserves its place there in the A tier. Let's see, you know, let's get weird. LSD Dream Emulator for the PlayStation 1. What a just fucking weirdo out there video game. Pretty famously, it was created by a sole developer who just took his dream journals from over a span of like, I don't know, 5 years or something like that, and just created this weird walking sim based around them. And, you know, it's every bit as trippy as it sounds. You just walk around all these crazy different places, and all of these random different things happen. It's a real trip of a game. I definitely want to review it at some point. For its sheer ambition and just outright strangeness, I think I'm going to put this in B tier. I can't, because it is a janky game. There's really not a whole lot to it. It's a game you just explore, and that's really it. You just walk around and you know, just go through these different dreams, and there's always something new to see. So I will give it that. Yeah, a strong B tier, not quite A tier, because it is kind of janky, and it's, you know, it's just a explorable walking simulator. All right, let's get on to some fighting games here. We talked about wrestling, but let's get to some fighting. We've got Tekken 3, and this was, you know, the big entry on the PlayStation. But this is one, again, I don't have a whole lot of, I don't have too much of a history with. I did play a bit of this game with one of my good friends, Steven. I remember us being down in Florida. We went to a trip down in Florida when we were kids, and we went to this farmer's market or thrift market, and sure enough, they had a video game stand in there, and him and I both just raided that PlayStation 1 section they had back when PlayStation 1 games were still pretty darn cheap. And I remember him coming home with a copy of Tekken 3 and us kind of sitting there and playing, because I bought a new PlayStation while we were there, so we had a PlayStation for this trip down in Florida, and I remember us playing a good bit of Tekken 3 and just getting my ass handed to me because I was just no good at this game. But I can respect the hell out of this game. This one's gonna definitely get an A tier. I mean, you know, it's a prolific game for the Tekken series, and I think the series would get better with later entries, but this is really the one at the time that felt like it really put Tekken on the map and made it feel like it really mattered. All right, now I guess going from Tekken, all right, let's talk about another kind of racing game here. Extreme sports game. We've got 1080 snowboarding for the N64. Now this is, yeah, like less of a snowboarding game, more of a racing game, and it's definitely one that, like Wipeout has its kind of unique feel to it. It's one you have to adapt to, and I just don't know if it's a game for me. It's definitely a fun game, and again, like a lot of games in this era, maybe I probably just have a soft spot for the kind of like late 90s electronica sound. I like the music in this game, but I think I'm gonna put this like a high C tier. It's just not quite a game for me, so I'm gonna put it in the C tier, right there next to Castlevania Symphony of the Night for the Saturn, to kind of say like, hey, these aren't bad games, but these are games with flaws, or these are games that just aren't for me. All right, next up, you know what? We'll kind of keep with that theme in mind. Sonic Adventure. Now, Sonic Adventure, you know, kind of a benchmark title for the series. You know, the real first 3D outing for the series. It did some amazing things for the Sonic games, and as someone that prefers the 3D Sonic games, I like what this establishes, but I also have my gripes with Sonic Adventure that, the controls are definitely an issue. It's early 3D controls. They're kind of janky at times. It has that kind of Sonic jank to it. Ooh, is this going to be a B or a C tier? I'm gonna put this one in C tier. I prefer Sonic Adventure 2, and I actually prefer a handful of the later 3D Sonic titles. I'm gonna leave it there for now, but that might move up to a very low B tier. Let's move over to the single Super Nintendo game I have on this list, and that is none other than a game I've covered on the channel here, Kirby Star Stacker. Yes, this is a late release for the Super Nintendo, but this is a hell of a puzzle game. I really enjoy this game. I'm not going to give it an S tier, but it goes up there in the A tier for me. Yeah, this is just a fantastic puzzle game. One you can really just sit down and play for a good long while. I sat there and played like, I don't know, 10 to 12 hours of this game when I did this review all those handful of years ago. Hell of a game. Only came out in Japan on the Super Famicom, but did come out over here in the States on the Game Boy. Yeah, it did get a Game Boy release, and then I think it got released on like the GameCube or something like that. I think it was like an unlockable as a part of another game on the GameCube, maybe. That could be incorrect. But yeah, Kirby Super Star Stacker, that's definitely going in the A tier there. That's a fantastic puzzle game. All right, you know what? While we're sitting here talking about great games, Resident Evil 2. For a very long time, my main exposure to the Resident Evil series was simply the very first game. That's the one I had played the most of for quite a number of years, and I understood the appeal of the original Resident Evil, but it wasn't really until I played Resident Evil 2 that it really clicked for me, and that I really feel like I found what I like about this series, and the series itself really picked up with number 2. Number 1, absolutely a benchmark title. Resident Evil 2 is fucking amazing. Man, it's a great game that really just bumps all the action up to 11 and just really goes some places. This is an easy S tier. Yeah, fantastic survival horror game. And that remake is fantastic. It takes everything that is great about Resident Evil 2, the original, and just, fixes the controls, makes things better. And I would say, I still think the original Resident Evil 2 holds up in its own regard as a nice, counterpiece to the remake to go back and play. So yeah, Resident Evil 2, that's an S tier for me, for sure. And while we're talking about survival horror and Resident Evil, let's get Deep Fear on this list. Now, Deep Fear is a Resident Evil clone for the Saturn. It's kind of like The Abyss meets The Thing, as you have you're on a submarine and you have these weird bio creatures that are spawning from humans, coming out of people's bodies like it's The Thing, and just running amok on this this submarine, and then also this kind of aquatic sea base. I would almost call it a so bad it's good, but I would say it has some more redeeming qualities that keep it from being bad. It is a cheese fest through and through, though. The voice acting in this game is to be experienced. It's pretty bad. It's pretty funny. But you know what? I will say it is not quite on par with the original Resident Evil, but it is almost right there with it. Let's see. Oh, man. Oh man, is this going to be a C or a B? Because I can't call it. It's not an A. It's definitely not an S. All right, this one's going to be a C tier. I don't think I could put it above Sonic Adventure nor Symphony of the Night. Yeah, that's a C tier. Not necessarily a bad game, but flawed, but still fun. It definitely has a lot of so bad it's good elements going for it. Oh man, okay. The original Pokemon generation, I only have Red down here, but this is Pokemon Red and Blue, all-time classics. Some of the very first video games I ever played. Some of my fondest memories are tied to this game, but I mean, these are just watershed RPGs. I mean, the first Pokemon game, I would say it still holds up fairly well. I replayed it what would have been about 10 years ago at this point, and I still think they hold up pretty well. And the music is great. The adventure you go on is great. They were definitely still finding their footing here. You know, the roster, that original 151, as much as people love it, they're memorable, but they're flawed. Type weaknesses and just different types in general were still kind of, you know, taking shape. So it's not a perfect game, but honestly, for the time and honestly looking back and seeing that these games are still very playable, this is an S tier. That's easily an S tier for me. Yeah, the original Pokemon games, that first gen is still fantastic. All right, you know what? Here's kind of a wild card. One I put in here I've not played much of, but I know it is a cult classic. That is No One Can Stop Mr. Domino. No One Can Stop Mr. Domino is this kind of weird auto-scroller. You know what? I feel like it really goes hand in hand with like Pepsi Man. It's this kind of weird auto-scroller where you're trying to make sure nobody stops Mr. Domino when he gets to the end of these levels and makes it through these kind of like running puzzles. It's a kind of fun, quirky, fascinating game. I think this one's gonna end up in the B tier, kind of right there along LSD Dream Emulator. Again, feel like those almost kind of go hand in hand as one of those just like esoteric, quirky PS1 games of the era. Yeah. Okay, man, we got still quite the lineup down here. We have an amazing lineup down here left to rank. All right, Metal Gear Solid. Again, this is one I felt had to be on this list despite the fact that I have not really played this game. I honestly have not played this game at all. I'm not the biggest Metal Gear fan in general, and it doesn't mean I don't like these games. It's just I haven't really dug into them. I haven't really played any of them other than like Metal Gear 2 on the MSX. So, but I understand how important Metal Gear Solid is, and it really was a game changer. But again, much like Half-Life, because I have not played it, I cannot put it in the S tier, but I absolutely understand its importance in video games. So that's going to be an A tier. I'm going to go ahead and give it that because I understand how important it is, how, you know, game-changing it was, and how much people still love this series to this day. And, you know, I have a coworker, shout out Chaz, who will sit there and talk my ear off about Metal Gear, even at the slightest name drop of it. All right, for the Sega Saturn, we have House of the Dead, the original House of the Dead. Now, I know that this is sort of a flawed port of this game. I know that graphically it doesn't look as good, it doesn't play as well, I don't think it has quite the same frame rate, and obviously, you know, it's just not the best representation of the arcade experience, but it does do a decent job of bringing that arcade experience home, you know, at least to some degree, and it's a game I enjoy. I think I'm going to go ahead and put this in the B tier. I feel okay putting that in the B tier. It's a flawed port, but it's still a capable port of a very fun arcade game. And honestly, the arcade experience is still decently captured within it. Yeah, I feel like B tier feels justified, as I feel like it is a slightly better game than some of the stuff in the C tier, and that I can be more forgiving of an arcade on-rail shooter being slightly downgraded on console than like a botched port of Symphony of the Night, which is just like damn near one of the greatest games of all time. Yeah, I feel okay with House of the Dead in the B tier. Okay, over on the Dreamcast. So we'll hop from one Sega console to the next. We have Dynamite Cop. Actually, this is not the Dreamcast version. I just have the Dreamcast cover down here. It was hitting the arcades at the time. But Dynamite Cop, wacky, fun follow-up to Die Hard Arcade. And this game, it delivers tenfold on way more wackiness, way more zaniness, way more over-the-top crap. And honestly, I love it for it. The voice acting is funny. The premise is ridiculous. The action housed within it is just over the top to the best degrees. Yeah, this is a wonderful, wonderful little game here. However, it is very short. It is a 3D beat 'em up through and through. It's not the most advanced game out there. Can I say it is better than some of this stuff in the C tier? Man, I don't know. No. It's going in the C tier because I don't think I could call it a better game than Sonic Adventure. And I would, again, for as flawed as that Symphony of the Night port is, come on, it's still Symphony of the Night at the end of the day. And yeah, Dynamite Cop is not better than Symphony of the Night. All right, let's hop back over to the Saturn. We got another fighting game here, Street Fighter Alpha 3. Man, Street Fighter Alpha 3 is an amazing game. Street Fighter Alpha 2 is probably my personal favorite of the series. That's mostly due to nostalgia, and that's probably my favorite fighting game of all time. And Street Fighter Alpha 3 is just a better version of that with more characters and more isms that are in the game. Yeah, oh man, I think I gotta give this an S tier. Again, yeah, like Alpha 2 is my personal favorite fighting game of all time, and I feel, you know, the Alpha series just iterates on the original Street Fighter series in just like, it iterates on it in just like the best ways possible. The inputs feel more fluid, the attacks string together better, you know, again, like getting your combos off and getting your specials off and your supers all just feels great. The action is just kinetic. Yeah, the Street Fighter Alpha series is my personal favorite of the Street Fighter games, and Alpha 3 is definitely an S tier. It's absolutely right up there, right at the top. But let's take a look at a game that deserves to be on the bottom, and that is none other than Clock Tower 2. As y'all know, I love the Clock Tower series. I've covered the very first game here on the channel many years ago, and Clock Tower 2, which is technically a spin-off in the series known as Clock Tower Ghost Head in Japan, is actually like the third entry in the series because Clock Tower on the PlayStation is actually the real Clock Tower 2. Clock Tower 2 Ghost Head is what I'll call it here, it is a bad game. It is a bad game. It is a funny bad game though. So it's not without its charms, as the voice acting, once again, just of the era, very, very bad. But this game is goofy and janky. You play these different scenarios throughout the game, and the controls are just janky. And like the first scenario is like there's like a little killer stalking you around your house. It's meh, and then you end up in like a hospital and somebody's stalking you there. I can't even remember if Scissorman's in this game. It's been so long since I last played this game. But as Uncle Derek over at Stop Skeletons from Fighting always cites as like the absolute cardinal sin of this game, and I cannot disagree with him, is that in the very, very first scenario, when you're in the house, if you do not examine this like statue of armor at the very end of the game, like 6 hours later into this game, that statue and that armor will literally randomly fall from the ceiling and kill you like right there at the end of the game, and there's nothing you can do to stop that from happening other than starting back over and doing it right this time. And that is a horrible game design decision no matter how you look at it. So yeah, Clock Tower 2 deserves its spot here at the bottom in the D tier. That is some D tier jank right there. Although I do recommend maybe checking this game out. It's kind of funny bad. Play a little bit of it. There's a great little part in the beginning where there's like a little killer stalking you throughout the house. And it's this little girl, and she just shows up and laughs and goes just like,
I'm going to kill you.
It's great. It's stupid. This game's dumb. All right, what we are left with here is quite a lineup. I mean, some fantastic games here. We've saved the best for last, but we're talking about Panzer Dragoon Saga. You know, one of the most defining RPGs for the Saturn. And I know it's an absolute groundbreaker. One I have not played a lot of, but I know it's kind of got this unique kind of real-time battle mechanics to it, in real-time kind of dodging, as you can kind of, you know, fly around on your dragon, your dragoon, you know. People absolutely love this game, and it's one of my bucket list games. It's one of the games I'm definitely going to get around to playing. But because I've not played very much of it, I've played like the first 30, maybe 40 minutes of this. I don't know, people might crucify me for this, but I'm gonna put it in the B tier. And I feel slightly guilty about that, but I just don't know if it's a game for me from the little bit I've played. But yeah, you know, hey, this is just my opinion. I'm gonna stick with it. I'm gonna put it there in the B tier. Let's get to Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Probably one of the most landmark titles in not only the Zelda series, but probably early 3D gaming. And it's a game that's like, it's okay. I know that like that sounds crazy, but the Zelda series overall is one that I'm also not like the biggest fan on. Don't get me wrong, I actually like a good handful of the games in the series. I don't dislike the Zelda series. As a matter of fact, it's so funny that like I'm just not like the biggest Zelda fan, because like my dad is actually a huge Zelda fan, and that's like one of the few video games he will still occasionally pick up and play. But for me, you know, the real standouts in the series are A Link to the Past, Wind Waker, and Twilight Princess. Those are, oh my god, and then A Link Between Worlds is a fucking amazing game. Those were the ones I really put the time into, and Ocarina of Time I played a bit of. I think I got like 3 or 4 dungeons in and was like, yeah, this is fine, but there was something about it that just kept me from not wanting to really go back and play more of it. But again, I do have to acknowledge how important it is. I feel bad that I'm gonna put this over Panzer Dragoon Saga, but again, I gotta give that an A. Gotta give that an A for how important it is. All right, and you know what? Speaking of A tier, Parasite Eve is gonna go there right along with it. Yet again, another really amazing kind of like action RPG coming to us from Square. This is a game I just last year, finally played all the way through it, and I really enjoyed it. It's a game not without its flaws. Trying to dodge stuff is kind of a pain in the ass at times with the battle system, but I love the battle system. I love how it's kind of real time. It's kind of turn-based. You also have like these different like magic and stuff you can use. It's a really well thought out game that absolutely deserves a remake or a reboot. Come on, Square. You would be making a ton of money by doing that. There are so many fans, myself included, that would love to see the original game here get a remake. Come on, please. Yeah, Parasite Eve. Absolutely, I've got to put that in the A tier. That's a fantastic game. All right, Marvel vs. Capcom. I think I also have to put this in the A tier. This is a very, very important fighting game. One that I have a lot of nostalgia for, despite the fact I did not play a lot of it. This is one of those games that occasionally going over to a friend's house, he would sit there and just play this for hours. And I would play with him, but I was always more because I wasn't any good at the game. I was always more fascinated in watching him play it solo and try to unlock new characters and just seeing all the different, new approach, a new challengers approaching kind of things, stuff like that. And I just remember, like, one time there was some sort of party going on over at his house, and just all of us huddled around his TV in the living room, just watching him try to unlock certain characters and passing the controller around, and all of us trying to take turns. Yeah, so Marvel vs. Capcom, a game I'm very nostalgic for, but I also cannot deny the fact that it is an incredible fighting game. It's beloved so many years later for a good reason. Yeah, that's going to go in the A tier. All right, Xenogears. This is the last one on this list of games I have not played, but it's a game that has fascinated the shit out of me because it is. I've heard many people kind of describe it as like kind of like the Evangelion of like RPGs in a weird way. I've heard many people, sing its prayers and talk about how great it is, and it's just a game that seems so daunting to me. But it's a game I really want to play because I hear that story is so good and it goes some very, very heady out there places that absolutely mystify me and really intrigue me in just the right ways. As somebody that really enjoys stuff like Evangelion and Zero Experiments Lane and like David Lynch films and I don't want to say to like heady media, but stuff that really makes you think. And I love to just sit there and analyze media, and I've heard that this game is very much one of those types of experiences, and as somebody who just recently played through Nier Automata, and that is absolutely one of these games. I'm very curious to check this out, and maybe this one's kind of waiting in the wings for me here as maybe one of the next big games I tackle. With that said, I know it is also kind of a flawed game, as that third disc of this game is mainly cutscenes. But out of sheer intrigue, I'm gonna put that in the A. I'm gonna let my bias show. I'm gonna put that in the A tier. And with that, we're down to 2 last games. And I'm gonna go ahead and throw it over to the PlayStation for Klonoa. This is a game that holds up. Klonoa is a fantastic 2.5D platformer. An amazing game on the PlayStation. I recently played this, I don't know, 2 or so years ago, and was just absolutely blown away by just how well it holds up. It's so good. The controls are there. They're solid. They're super responsive. The design of these levels is just absolutely tight. The game doesn't overstay its welcome. The music is great. Man, it's a fantastic game. It's a real shame that the Klonoa series has not seen some sort of like renaissance or at least some sort of reboot in this generation. I would love to see it come back. Namco absolutely has the money. I guess maybe there's necessarily not, that much interest in it, but hell, man, even make it a budget title, make, like a, cheap 4 to 5 hour game, sell it for $40. I'll absolutely be there. Yeah, Klonoa, that's an S tier, man. That's a fantastic game. All these years later, it absolutely holds up. And then that leaves us with one last game, and it's none other than Radiant Silvergun, coming to us from Treasure over on the Saturn. I've reviewed this game. Y'all know how I feel about this game. This is one of the best shoot 'em ups of all time. One of the best shooters I've ever played. It's so good with its 6 different weapon types that you have available to you at all times that can just be used in so many different unique ways, and there's just different scenarios in every level that perfectly pair with these weapons, and the more you use them, the more they level up, and it's just such a intriguing and well put together shoot 'em up from top to bottom. The music is fantastic, the graphics are great, it does some really interesting stuff. The story also goes some extremely heady and ambitious places that I definitely never expected playing through that game, and I refused to spoil that in the review, and I still refuse to spoil it now. Yeah, this is a game you should absolutely play. It's available out there on Steam, and that Steam version has the Saturn the Saturn exclusive content in there, and which is great. Yeah, this is an easy S tier. This is, it's an easy S tier. So yeah, there it is. We've ranked a bunch of games from 1998. Let me know what you all thought about this video. I actually had a lot of fun doing this. Let me know if you want to see me rank some of the other years in video games, as I absolutely have a couple other ones in mind that I would love to sit there and do the same thing for. But anyways, let me know what you think of my ranking. Roast me in the comments if you think it's all wrong. Let me know what some of your S-rank games from 1998 would be, whether they're on this list or not. Anyways, that's going to do it for this episode, and I will see you all next time. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this episode, consider checking out these other videos right here, or even subscribing. Also, if you'd like to throw me a couple of bucks, you can support the show on Patreon.